Hi, everyone, and welcome back from the break. My name is Emily Lawless, and I am part of the Audit and Assurance Construction team here at Saltmarsh. Today, we have with us Shannon Ogletree and Erica Grancagnolo, the Director and Associate Director of Economic Development for Santa Rosa County. Shannon and Erica are quite the dynamic duo when it comes to serving the county by recruiting and securing the best possible development opportunities to support continued growth. Shannon brings with him over 2 decades of economic development experience spanning industries and roles. Erica brings with her over 15 years of extensive experience in local government, focusing on grant programs, economic development initiatives, and infrastructure improvements. Together, they will bring us up to speed on the state of the national and local economy.
Thanks again for having both Eric and I being able to present on basically the state of the economy, not just for Santa Rosa County, but for the nation. I just want to say though, when I first agreed to this with Mike, he kind of promised me that this would be in person. So those that are in Tampa, I expect a growler from Cigar City in my mailbox in a couple weeks. So Zoom is not my friend sometimes, but lastly, I will say before I really get started is that my daughter was asking me this morning, why I was up so late working on a presentation and why I'm up so early. And told her I was doing a presentation, and I was like, should I make it fun? And she's like, no, don't make it fun. Keep it serious. So I was like, baby, don't you know me? And she's like, yeah, but keep it serious. So I'm going to try to keep it serious, try to keep it fun, and try to keep it entertaining. So with that, I'm kicking it off. Doing that. There we go. Santa Rosa County, Northwest Florida. A lot of people seem to forget where we're actually located. And with that, here's a few of the companies that are in our neck of the woods, from aviation, transportation, logistics, and manufacturing. Oftentimes, as I mentioned, people forget where we're at. We're part of, the Northwest Florida, Florida's Great Northwest Territory. Believe it or not, people actually get confused with us with Santa Rosa City, California. I've been there. We're quite different. I love the beer, but we're quite different. People have, reached out to us from Miami, Tampa, Orlando, and said multiple times, let's grab some lunch. Well, that's quite a ways to go for lunch. But as you can see from this next map, with Dallas being only 10 hours away, New Orleans 3, Atlanta 5, I'm willing to at least meet people at the bar of those locations. The Santa Rosa County, again, the second most northern county in northwestern county in Florida. We are part of the Pensacola MSA, which is basically 500,000 strong. When I first jumped into economic development a couple of years ago, people asked, what is economic development? And basically, it's basically us creating wealth. It's creating wealth for the communities, bringing in new monies, bringing in industries that build jobs, that builds, that enables people to spend money, to buy houses, to buy things in that geographic area. So, economic development is a leap of faith. And it's believing your community, it's believing in your investments in that community. And it's beyond roads, it's beyond infrastructure, it's building people, it's making the workforce strong, it's making sure that not just the site, but the workforce education is there, so that as a company comes, then they can support what we are asking for in terms of companies and wages. So now I'm going to turn it over to Erica.
Hi, everyone. So in addition to everything Shannon mentioned, what we do as economic developers is we have to really understand our community data. So we have to not just understand the numbers like you're looking at here in the chart, but we have to tell the story behind the numbers. So when we meet with companies or site selectors outside of our area, It's our responsibility to provide the context and the narrative behind these numbers. So what these numbers truly say about the health of our community, our business climate, and what competitive advantages can we determine from the data ourselves? And more importantly, what are some areas that may cause concern for folks and that we need to address? So as we look at the chart here, we're looking at Santa Rosa County, our MSA. We're looking at the Tampa State MSA, and then we're comparing that to Florida as a state and the nation as a whole. So what stands out as a competitive advantage for Santa Rosa County and the Pensacola MSA looking at this chart? First and foremost, you can look at our current projected annual growth rate of 2.1% in Santa Rosa County and 1.2% for the MSA. Florida as a whole and Santa Rosa County are 3 times higher than the US average growth rate at 0.7%. Our unemployment rates have fared far better than the national rates, both in 2019 and now in the midst of the pandemic. We're still looking much better than the national rates. Educational attainment rates for the MSA are outpacing the state and national averages. Upon first glance, participation rates appear a little low, but remember we said this is our chance to provide a narrative behind the data. Not all of you might be aware of what the difference is between a participation rate compared to an unemployment rate. The labor force participation rate is defined as the section of working population in the age group of 16 to 64 in the economy who are currently employed or who are seeking employment. So individuals who are in school, who are in college, stay-at-home moms, and persons above the age of 64 are not recognized in the labor force. A lot of areas in Florida have a low participation rate because of our retirees clustered throughout the region. And as you'll see in the next chart, the largest age group in Santa Rosa County is in the 65 plus category. So here in Santa Rosa County specifically, we're sitting at 184,000 population. And as I mentioned, the largest, you can see here on the chart easily that the largest age group is 65 plus. A lot of this is attributed to our high concentration of military retirees, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, pre-COVID, when unemployment rates were so low, the highest priority for companies looking to locate in an area was availability of workforce. So what helped us stand out is our military retirees. In fact, U.S. Congressional District 1, which includes Santa Rosa County, Escambia, Okaloosa, and Walton, otherwise known as Matt Gaetz territory, has the highest concentration of military retirees in the country. This is something that's very attractive to companies. This chart just further shows the explosive growth rate for Santa Rosa County over the last 9 years. It shows our resiliency after the Great Recession in 07 to 09. And so now that we've looked at some of the data for the county and the MSA, you've seen our growth and you've seen that we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the state. So how have we been doing here locally since the pandemic? In terms of economic development and job creation, we've never been better. This chart shows Santa Rosa County's open economic development projects, with most of these companies expecting to break ground on facilities in 2021. Leonardo Helicopters is probably the most widely publicized project after they won the contract to replace the aging fleet of training helicopters at NAS Whiting Field and committed to constructing a 100,000 square foot facility at our Whiting Aviation Park. Financial support from Triumph Gulf Coast for industrial park infrastructure here in the county, combined with our skilled workforce that we've discussed. These are two of the reasons why we're seeing success here in Santa Rosa County, even during these unprecedented times of this pandemic.
You know, a lot of folks ask, why do we focus on certain projects? So this is the economic impact of a manufacturing company of 200 jobs, of what one job equals throughout the community. So in this example, for one direct job, which means one company, one individual working at this manufacturing company produces 1/4 an indirect job and a 1/4 induced job. So basically, what is indirect, induced? Indirect is those suppliers that are supplying this manufacturing company. So let's, for example, take Gulf Cable, a local company that produces cabling for wind and solar farms. They receive supplies from Prudential Battle Stamping and other facilities located throughout the Northwest Florida. So every direct job that Gulf Cable has in the Santa Rosa Industrial Park creates basically 1/4 job indirect job, and then induced is basically those individuals working at the plant, at the manufacturing facility, spending their dollars in the community. Just in reference, I was watching Gun Ho last night, and as that manufacturing facility vanished in the opening scenes of the movie, so did the pizza parlor, so did the barbershop. So that's to bring in new money like GovCable and others to continue to spur other growth that that we all need here to basically keep the quality of life up. So I know you're thinking, okay, that's the past, but let's look to the future and see, basically see where we're going. So this is where it's going to start getting hairy. So I would say if you need a bathroom break, just go ahead and go now. The next couple ones is going to be kind of boring, but I'll just jump right into it. This is the forecast for the different industry sectors. As you can see on the next slide, manufacturing is going to be a big increase for us over the next couple of years compared to both the MSA and nationwide. And this just goes back to GovCable, as I was mentioning, and then also those 3 manufacturing projects that Erica previously had on the slide from Induction, Hard Metal, and Oh Brother. Those 3 companies are looking at building approximately 70,000 square feet, I believe, capital investment over $20 to $25 million, and bring in additional 70 to 75 positions. So that's why we focus on those type of jobs. They continue to have a strong economic impact, and we're seeing a good growth in that sector for all of us. And by the way, the code word of the day for our presentation is my favorite movie, Spider-Man. As you can see here, also in many of the categories, we're outpacing the Pensacola MSA, the Tampa Metro, and even the Florida. And some of the, some of them we're outpacing them by 3 times the amount. So why is that growth still? A lot of that growth is looking at some of the retail trade, transportation, and warehousing projects like Yummy and Lionheart, which are 2 warehousing distribution facilities that are locating to our I-10 park. You're looking at capital investment of 20 to 25 million for those facilities, of a total combined square footage of about 150,000 square feet. And then a big one that we're also working is Project Runner, which is looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 to 450,000 square feet with 400 to 600 positions. So we're seeing a big uptick, and those categories, at least for Santa Rosa County, actually throughout Northwest Florida, as I'm talking to my counterparts in both Escambia, Okaloosa, and Bay County. And then I'll flip it over to Erica.
All right, so switching gears a little bit, another indicator we can look at to gauge how the economy is doing are the number of small business applications. Interestingly enough, anytime you have an economic downturn, you can expect to see an increase in small business applications. That holds true now, both nationally as well as in Florida. So the bar graph here represents Florida. You can see that we are looking at nearly a 46% increase in small business applications in Florida in 2020 compared to 2019. And obviously that's a result of the economic impacts of COVID. And the next few charts we're going to look at contain information from Dodge Data and Analytics for Q2 of 2020. We desperately wanted Q3 information, but we've got another week or 2 until that information is public. But if you're interested, you can all head to the Dodge Data and Analytics website. I think early November is when they'll have their Q3 report. There's some interesting findings here, though, even looking at Q2. Nationally, contractors and engineers are reporting that they're experiencing reductions in either revenue or profit margin. The chart on the left expresses the top reason why. We know that right now, state and local governments are facing revenue shortfalls that are impacting their ability to move forward with capital projects, and that's reflected in the 70% of respondents who feel they've been impacted by insufficient public revenue to support new projects. The chart on the right depicts what I know you're all experiencing locally, because I've heard it in almost every conversation I've had, whether it's with a builder or whether it's with someone who's building a new home. The cost of construction materials is affecting the construction industry nationally. More than half of respondents are reporting a concern related to fluctuations in costs over the next 6 months. We'll look at some of those cost trends in the next few slides. Contractors who are concerned about cost increases in the next 6 months were asked which materials specifically raised the most concern. Steel and pavement and concrete were the top concerns listed. To the right side of this chart, you'll see that contractors and engineers who were experiencing delays due to COVID were asked to identify any of the factors responsible for these delays from a list of 8 possible options. Material availability and government furlough and shutdowns were the highest reported causes for delays. Lumber prices. We'll hear a lot about that. According to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, lumber prices have soared nearly 120% since mid-April. However, since September, we're seeing a roughly 20% dip. The unprecedented lumber spike over the last several months has added nearly $16,000 to the price of a typical new single-family home. According to Engineering News Record and HIS Market, part of the reason for the lumber spike is mismatched supply and demand. When COVID first hit, the suppliers anticipated a slowdown in construction, and we really didn't see that much of a slowdown nationally and locally. So as such, there wasn't as much lumber available as needed to meet demand, and that is why we saw such a spike with lumber specifically. And this is actually one of my favorite slides in the presentation. We're looking right now at commercial sector starts. I think everyone's aware that retail starts are down significantly in 2020. So what we see here in black is 2020 numbers, and then we see our forecast for 2021. So the forecast for 2021 overall is looking pretty good, with the exception of hotel starts. Obviously, that has to do with the expectation that travel, business travel, and personal travel are not going to return to normal for a couple of more years. One thing to note here is warehouse starts are actually up in 2020. And it's really easy to see that that has to do with e-commerce and the increased demand for e-commerce. Warehouse starts are expected to continue to increase throughout 2021. This chart again is from Dodge Data and Analytics. We're just showing the trend line for retail building starts since 2000. And what this chart shows, and this is actually, I'm sorry, this chart is actually showing retail vacancy. So you really want low vacancy rates. You want this to trend downward. And what this chart shows is that retail really hasn't recovered from the recession in 2008. And so these numbers, vacancy rates for retail are relatively high. Now we're looking at vacancy rates for office space. And we have the green line here representing office employment and the blue line representing the vacancy rate. And you can clearly see the impact of COVID and from everyone moving to work from home in 2020. These are warehouse vacancy rates, and of course you can see the line trending downward for warehouse vacancy. We're experiencing that locally as well, where the inventory of vacant commercial spaces is low. And I will turn it back to Shannon.
You know, you can really tell that we've all been taking it on the chin since March, and you know, not just for the retail and multifamily, everything is just taking a hit. This chart shows that, you know, for the public sector and the non-building sector, which is basically, you know, like it states, the highways and bridges and, you know, what the power companies are doing. But everything's down. Everything is a grim look for 2020. I'm just counting down the days till January 1, 2021. However, as Dodge predicts and many economists do predict, that get past the election, get past let's get into the new year. 2021 is going to have an uptick, and that's what you see in green there. So from healthcare, if you look nationwide, there's many different projects going on from Portland to them expanding PDX. San Francisco is adding a new wastewater treatment facility. Big water treatment facilities going on in North Carolina. So all across the nation, things are looking up if we can get past the election. And I think a lot of it also is going to depend on what type of vaccine or when the vaccine comes out. That gets people up and traveling again, like Erica mentioned, and get people outdoors. As I said, we really took it on the chin. As you can tell, everything dipped. The whole world stopped back in March the 19th, basically March the 20th. We remember that date. We came back from a trip on Wednesday, March the 11th. We had a big company visit on Friday, March the 13th. During that visit, we showed them Santa Rosa County. We showed them the area. They, by the time they left that day, they said, let's sign, let's do this deal, let's do this project. And that was Friday, March the 13th. But less than a week later, the world shut down. That project was put on hold. That $50 million project was put on hold. Things are coming back. That $50 million project has came back. Other projects throughout Northwest Florida, through the Southeast, friends in Baldwin County, they said things are looking great. Growth is beyond what they've seen in the past. With this, housing's coming with it. For those in the Pensacola MSA, Dr. Rick Harper, an economist that was at the University of West Florida, now with Triumph Gulf Coast. He completed a study a couple years ago for Santa Rosa County, and his projections showed that 1,500 new single-family homes needs to be built every year in Santa Rosa County alone to keep up with population demand. So with us, with others throughout the state of Florida, you saw the growth patterns, you saw the growth numbers throughout the state. We are growing at a rapid pace. So single family is the bright, shining spot for the economy. I would just say that multifamily permits continue to weaken, though. They're forecasted to continue to trend downward. So things are looking good. Confidence in the builders are up. The developers are up. They do see a light at the end of this tunnel. What is the road to recovery? As I mentioned before, is the threats could be what happens, do we have another flare-up by the end of this calendar year? What will the White House do? I mean, on Tuesday, there was a package put forth by the House to the White House. They seemed to agree on it, but the Senate did not take it up. So what happens is there another stimulus package that comes out that helps those individuals, or is it to also help local governments, help the state governments from all the lost revenue that we've all experienced since March? And then opportunities, again, is the single family. Those people that are looking to escape the big metro areas. We're starting to see, you're starting to hear people moving out of New York City or Atlanta or the Houstons or the Dallases and want to be more in the rural areas. So that's the type of growth we're starting to see, or why we're starting to see that type of growth. I wanted to throw this chart in just to kind of show, what type of experience did we have since March. And, you can see since March, we basically lost 22 million jobs throughout the nation. And I was reading a report just in the past 2 weeks, and it said, any other time, 661,000 jobs added in a single month would be, something to jump over the moon about. However, compared to the previous 2 months, adding 3 million jobs and 4 million jobs back in July, is something to still take into account and still realize that the economy is still shaky, and we still got a little ways to go before we pull out of this. If you just add up from June to now, I mean, you're only talking what, 10 million jobs basically. So we are still $12 million jobs short compared to 1st of March. So where do we go from here? It's a good question. At least for September, the hospitality and leisure industry added 318,000 jobs out of that 661. And the construction sector added a little over 100,000 jobs back to that industry. So as things are looking good in those sectors, the biggest downside was government lost around 216,000 jobs in September. So that is what is occurring for the job outlook. And again, just referencing back to the Dodge Momentum Index, what's lying ahead. The jagged line there is basically what the non-residential building permits and planning, or the projects and planning. So this is what's occurring 12 months into the future, basically a confidence level. And this really goes to show that as it uptick, then we'll start seeing a spending pattern with that. But like I said, this is basically 12 months out. Also want to point out the shaded line there, as you see from 08 to 09, and then to basically in 2020, the March and April highlighted. That is basically the recession. So as you can tell, for March, April, we had a very short recession. All economists, and I do believe it, that the recession lasted for basically 60 days or less, and we were out of it in May. So we had the shortest, deepest recession in U.S. history, and God help us if we go back into it. So just closing points. People ask, what do we see that will happen in the presidential election? My thoughts is, who else, not just the presidential election, but also who controls Congress? Will one party control all branches? Will we have Biden in there with a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, or will it flip back over to the Republicans, or stay with the Republicans for that? So if we have one party controlling all three chambers, then maybe we get a stimulus package passed that would be beneficial to all of us. And just to recap, the MSA, the state of Florida, is growing fast at a very rapid pace. I think we were looking at some numbers yesterday. Santa Rosa County, in fact, is the 11th fastest growing county in the state since 2010. And those companies or counties like Pasco and Hillsborough, they're right up there in the top 10 also. So they're growing fast, and things are looking good. I mean, things are continuing to have uptick. Like I mentioned, single family construction, the warehouse is starting to look good because of e-commerce. Amazon is taking a lot of that. I think I read that just since beginning this year, Amazon had, I think, 3 million square feet in terms of square footage, and they account for basically 20% of all warehouse activities. I mean, that is huge, moving forward. And I did forget to mention that the hotel industry is really taking it on the nose because of a lack of business travel, and rates are down. No new construction starts, except for one that I know of. I think in LA or San Diego that is occurring, a couple $100 million project over that area, which I'm very, very surprised of. But I think that was years in the making, and they're still moving forward with it. So with that, that is closing. I know we moved kind of quickly, But there's myself and Erica, if there's any questions.
Thank you both so much for that. We do have a few questions that have come through and one in the chat box. To start out, Carol Rosenblatt has asked, since the interest rates are so low right now, have you seen an increase in new construction and residential loans and related development activities, as well as refinancing or consolidating existing loans that have higher fixed interest rates?
Okay, I think I'm back on. Yes, that's one of the driving factors is the low interest rates. Locally, yes, both locally and Northwest Florida, I've seen or heard that I would have to pull the numbers, but that is one of the primary factors for the residential growth rate.
Awesome. What about, could you tell us about what you're seeing as far as how municipalities are prioritizing and allocating resources to capital improvement projects, maybe both from a short-term perspective and long-term perspective, taking COVID-19 into account? And if possible, if you could even expand to if you've seen any difference between how this is going, in Northern Florida, Central Florida, and South Florida.
I can take that one. This is Erica. So one slide we actually had in the presentation and we decided to take out was our Santa Rosa County CARES Act slide. Most of the counties in Florida did receive CARES Act funding. We here in Santa Rosa County received about $32 million in CARES Act funding. So that while there are specific rules with to how that money can be spent, it has been helpful to us locally. Specifically, CARES Act funding can be used to pay emergency responder salaries. So there are ways that we've been able to use some of that CARES Act funding here, not just for small business programs and for COVID testing and for those kinds of activities that directly relate, but also because we can use that to pay our first responder salaries, that's helping us a little bit to bridge the gap with the shortfalls that we're seeing this year. The state of Florida is seeing substantial shortfalls with their budget because of COVID, and I can say with pretty good confidence that all of the counties in Florida are seeing similar shortfalls. So in terms of capital projects, I really can only speak locally here in Santa Rosa County. To be quite honest with you, I think a lot of that really has been put on hold for the upcoming fiscal year. Here in Santa Rosa County, of course, we have some big projects like our county courthouse, and that's obviously continued as scheduled. But in terms of, starting new projects, 2021 is probably not the year that those are going to happen. Again, though, based on all of the data in the presentation, it does look, we do expect to rebound in 2021. So hopefully 2022, things will look more normal, at least here in Florida.
That was great insight. Thank you so much for tackling that question. Going to the chat box, it looks like we have a couple of additional questions that have come in. Stacy Everhart has asked, do you have any insights on how small businesses are faring through this?
That is a really darn good question. As Erica mentioned, through the CARES Act, we received basically $32 million, to assist not just the healthcare or the personal care of the citizens, but also businesses. Like us, other counties throughout the state of Florida, other counties throughout the Southeast, we all developed emergency grant programs that where if a small business has seen a downturn of at least 5, 10, or 20%, then they're eligible for a grant anywhere from, I've seen as low as $2,500, as high as $20,000. So as long as a company is small business is seeing that saw that downturn, from March till now. That's what many counties, like I said, throughout the Southeast, throughout the nation, because when we developed our program, we were looking around and we saw the program developed in New York and San Francisco, and Atlanta did it, Tampa, Orlando. So many communities, we banded together and we looked across each other, spoke with economic developers and Small Business Development Council throughout the world, throughout the nation, and came up with a similar program to help our small businesses because yes, small businesses did take it hard. That walk-in traffic, many of the restaurants that we frequent here in the Pensacola MSA, just being closed for basically 4 to 6 weeks. That walk-in traffic, people being laid off, and it's that trickle effect of that economic impact that I showed earlier. It just doesn't apply to the manufacturing industry. It's the server that works at the fish house, and they are no longer able to draw a paycheck, so they are no longer able to go to that small business or Walmart to buy that item they need at their house. And then if they're not buying there, then that worker at Walmart is getting less hours, and so it's just a trickle down to the effect of the economy. But we're hoping with the emergency grant programs that we've all established that can at least keep the small businesses up and running until things turn around in terms of the pandemic and getting people out. But in sum that up, we spoke to the small businesses throughout, Small Business Development Center that's in the Northwest Florida area. And, in our area, small businesses are doing better than other parts of the country. And I think a lot of it is, just how resilient our economy is, how different our economy is, not being so dependent on the tourism industry. We're buffered by the military while they were, they're still basically on court. They can't get out and about to the restaurants. There's a lot of delivery going on. There's a lot of e-commerce going on. So I think that's the reason, because of the military pay, the retirees here is what's keeping our economy different from other parts of the nation.
Those are all very great points. Moving on to a question from Chuck Landers. He has asked, is Triumph Gulf Coast still important to the Northwest Florida region? If so, in what ways?
Triumph Gulf Coast is probably the most impactful economic development tool that we have here in Northwest Florida. Some of our neighboring states like Mississippi and Alabama have strong statewide economic development programs. In Florida, we don't have that. So here in the Panhandle, our real competition is not Tampa or Miami or elsewhere in Florida. Our competition is Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia. Triumph Gulf Coast has allowed us to compete on the same level as our neighboring states. Here in Santa Rosa County, we have 2 open Triumph contracts totaling about $12 million right now for industrial park infrastructure. And we have another $6 million that we expect to have under contract in December. So especially when, to refer back to the question of how are local governments handling capital projects for the upcoming year. So these are projects that are moving forward specifically because of Triumph. There's absolutely no way we would have this funding in our local government budget for this upcoming year. We, in the Economic Development Office, try to market Triumph as much as possible outside the community and make sure that companies are aware of what Triumph can do. And just to be clear, Triumph, because of state statute, cannot provide direct incentives to companies. However, we figured out a way to work with Triumph that is incredibly beneficial to our community. So you will hear us say thank you to Triumph as often as we possibly can.
And I would just like to add that one big example also is ST Engineering over in Pensacola. ST is adding basically 1,200, 1,300 new jobs at the Pensacola International Airport. So without Triumph allocating, I think, $60 million toward that project for the construction of hangars, that would not even have been possible. So Scott Luth over at Florida West, did an awesome job pulling this project together. So others like us and Nathan Sparks in Okaloosa, Becca Hardin in Bay County, we are all working very similar projects. We were on the phone with Nathan yesterday, and we were talking about a couple of projects, and he's utilizing Triumph as basically as we are trying to bring a big project to the area. So as Erica said, the best way she said it, this could not be possible without them.
That's awesome. Thank you for telling us about all of that. One more question. What is your opinion, and this is a local Northwest Florida question, but what is your opinion on the impact of the Skanska barge issue and the bridge being out? We know it's going to be out for, at least about 6 months. So what all do you think that will impact?
It passed me going to Peg Leg Pete's a lot. No. It's seriously. I think in terms of I talked to one economist about it, and it's going to push people to work from home more, or establish a place over in Pensacola for a temporary, housing, because we all know somebody that lives in Gulf Breeze, and they live in or work in downtown Pensacola, and that hour 90-minute, if you're lucky, drive. It reminds me of DC. That who wants to do that every day? So I know we've pulled numbers on the traffic counts from Gulf Breeze proper to Tiger Point to to see if a ferry service is worth it, and if they pull together the ferry service to get ECAT to drop individuals off at the point and then go to downtown Pensacola and Pensacola Beach, you'll see an uptick in Uber. And Uber drivers, the trolley service, the ECAT, but not much. Just in the terms of the Uber drivers, just the patience and the overall frustration of us in Northwest Florida, Gulf Breeze. In terms of economic impact, very little for now. Except for those tourism, hospitality industries, like I mentioned, Peg Leg Pete's, everything located on the beach is seeing a downturn. I think the Pensacola News Journal mentioned that a couple weeks ago that the restaurants are hurting. They're after the pandemic, and this happened back in September the 16th. I don't know how much more they can take in terms of these businesses. We went to Peg Leg Pete's a couple weeks ago on a Saturday night. No wait. You don't see that in a still at the end of September. So it's really hurting them. We got to figure out a way to maybe press the company to say, provide a subsidy, provide some type of check or whatever to those companies on the beach that are taking a hit. How much more really can they take? Like I mentioned, being shut down because of the pandemic, no tourism traffic, and now freaking bridge out. What else can they do?
Yeah, those are all really great points. Another question has come through in the chat box from Carol Rosenblatt. Has the I-4 corridor between Tampa and Orlando continued to see development?
They have, and it's been a while since I talked to Ed down there, so I would have to look at that a little bit stronger. It's been a while since I really taken notice of that, so I really can't answer that.
Okay. I think we might have another question. Yes, Darren Johnson has asked, have you done any forecasting taking into account a passing of Amendment 2, raising the minimum wage dramatically in our area? How would that affect local small businesses?
No, but I know anecdotally, many of the companies that we deal with and a lot of the retail have already increased their wages to to almost the $15 mark. I don't believe the $15 mark really takes an effect until 2025, if I'm correct. If Amendment 2 does pass, I know the average wage jumps up to like 10 or 11 bucks an hour, and then every year after that, it goes up $1 until we hit the $15 mark in 2025. Like I said, the companies that we're talking with, we speak with on a daily basis, they're already paying their employees the 11 to 12, $13 mark, and that in 5 years from now there will be at 15 bucks an hour already, and I think it's going to hurt. I'm from a family of small businesses up in Alabama, and it's gonna decrease wages. People are going to be required to maybe increase the increase. My dad's going to increase the prices of the items sold in his store to help cover that, or he's going to work more hours in that store instead of hiring somebody. So in terms of the companies we're working with, they're not going to see much of an effect. But small businesses like my dad, if he was down here, like he's up in Alabama, he's working more hours. You're going to see an increase of prices within his store or at his golf course. So that's what's going to happen. But in terms of pure numbers, if we're going to see a job shrinkage or increase of people out of work, I have not seen that even from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So I can pull that and see if I can get that from U.S. Chamber or even the Florida Chamber of Commerce and pass it along.
Thank you so much. Another question has come through from Krista Garner. Have you seen an uptick in corporate relocations or discussions to relocate to Florida from other states such as New York? If yes, have these been placed on hold amid COVID-19, or are they still moving forward with relocations?
Let's see if it's on. Yes, we have. Part of our mission, not just for Santa Rosa County, but Northwest Florida through Florida's Great Northwest, we do visit places like New York or California or Washington State, the Seattles and the LAs and the New York cities. We are going to those high tax states and pressing forward with, why be in Northwest Florida? So yes, those are still moving forward. People are looking to get out of those high tax states, just because of high property tax, high workers' compensation rates, unemployment insurance. Those are all taking a beating for people. Companies out of Los Angeles or LA are leaving in droves and going to Nevada. If you've been to Las Vegas anytime soon, Las Vegas is on an unprecedented growth pattern, and that is because of companies jumping ship out of California. So we believe with our concentration of military retirees that we have here and the strong focus that we have on aviation defense, that's the reason we're going to places like LA, Seattle, and New York, because there's a strong concentration of aviation companies there. So we have a story to tell of those companies moving here. So in short, yes, we are still seeing a strong growth occurring from those companies moving from, at least from those 3 states, those 5 cities, to Northwest Florida. And for us, at least, and from like some of my counterparts east and west of me, things have not been put on hold, just a little slowdown.
Okay, great. And there's one more question so far. So I know that there's been, the colleges are now offering more virtual learning than ever before, which it's predicted that that's going to make college education a lot more available to people, and it's going to become a lot more flexible than it historically has been. One thing that I've noticed talking to multiple contractors and clients is that there seems to be, a shortage of qualified trade laborers that are really talented and skilled. So with college education, traditional college education becoming more accessible, have y'all done any studies or had any conversations about the impact that that will have on our trade labor workforce?
That's something that we push all the time. Not everybody needs a college degree. I mean, my oldest is just a freshman in college, and she's going to UWF, and she's taken 4 or 5 courses in person, one online. Uh, I know the college students hate it. Part of college is that social factor, right? But that's besides the point. What we are seeing is not as many people enrolled into the programs just because of the social distancing and the requirements of being in person. One thing that we're trying to do here through the Triumph Gulf Coast is to establish a A&P mechanics school through working with Pensacola State College. We're hoping to develop a 30,000 square foot facility where we're trained A&P mechanics to work on aircraft like Erica mentioned for Leonardo Helicopters, who's building the 100,000 square foot facility at Whiting Aviation Park, and to be part of that workforce that's going to be at ST Engineering. I mean, as mentioned, 12 to 1,300 jobs. So we need to fill a pipeline of those type of workers going to at least those 2 facilities. And as mentioned, I mean, in talking to Nathan over in Okaloosa County, he's got a couple of aviation projects. So we got to continue to fill that pipeline of that trade, at least A&P mechanics. And I swear, if I have to pay a plumber again $150 to come out of my house, yeah, we do need more of those folks out here. It goes back to simple economics. I mean, supply and demand. Even on a regular day, I'm paying them that much to come out there and check on something. I can tell you, we got to get people more involved and realize that, may not sound sexy, but they get paid good money, and it's hard work. But part of the fun job of being a tradesman. Before I worked at the university in the research department, I was a tradesman. I welded, I drove trucks, I had my CDL license. So that's the fun part of being a tradesman. I enjoyed it. And, the kids I talked to, my daughter's friends, some of them are looking at going to Lachlan, or they're going to Georgetown to acquire that trade certificate so they can get out of school without a $50,000 college bill, and only come out with maybe $5,000 in debt with a charge, and then get right to work making $70,000 to $80,000. But we do need to make a stronger push for for that type of trade here in Northwest Florida, but really, I say the Southeast. Lee over in Baldwin County, he's doing a bang up job. Also, really, bringing over manufacturing companies and distribution companies. So another thing that we're seeing an increase of is truck drivers. In partnership with Pensacola State College, we're developing a truck driver training school that they're hoping to train at least a dozen students every quarter to become new CDL license, to have their CDL license. So with companies like Yummy and Lionheart and eventually Runner, I mean, you're talking just between those 3 companies, probably 200 truck drivers that they're going to need. And as mentioned, Lee over in Baldwin County, I mean, he's working on a couple of big DCs, and you got Troy over in Mobile, and they have the Walmart DC, and there's a Walmart, and there's an Amazon DC right across from FedEx. I mean, just imagine. I mean, that last mile that we're all wanting that product, same day delivery now. That's the reason you see these Amazon trucks running all over the place, is that we're all impatient nowadays, and we ordered that morning, we want it that afternoon. So with that, it's going to become more warehouse workers, and it's going to be more drivers. But those drivers, at least back in the day when I drove, we had to have some type of CDL license. So I think, yes, we got to figure out how to convince our kids that not only college but going to the trade is important. And I'll just close by next week. We're actually giving a presentation to a group of high school students that is touring some manufacturing facilities in the 2 counties, and just telling them why manufacturing is important. Telling them that, as I mentioned, you don't have to go to college to make 50, 80 grand. If you want to work at Leonardo, you want to work at ST, get your A&P license, go to Georgetown, and maybe eventually come to this Pensacola State College training course. And once you're up and running, I mean, you're talking $70,000 to $80,000 a year in terms of pay. So, and that's without overtime. So there's good jobs out there. We just got to convince our kids that, just because you're in manufacturing, it's not bad. It's just different.
Yes, that's a fantastic perspective. Well, we are out of time. Thank you both so much. This has been a fantastic presentation, and I think that, I can speak on behalf of all of us saying that we have learned a great amount from you today, so we really appreciate it.